Today, we are diving deep into one of the most incredible parts of flying, what happens after the sun goes down. And you're about to find out that flying in the dark has almost nothing to do with the plane itself and everything to do with the pilot. You know, this quote from the FAA's handbook just nails it, doesn't it? An airplane is a machine. It flies the same way, whether it's noon or midnight. The real challenge, the real test, is for the human in the cockpit, with all our biological quirks and limitations. So you'd think defining night would be pretty simple, right? It's dark outside. Well, in aviation, it's not that simple. The definition is actually super specific, and for really good legal and safety reasons. Get this, pilots actually have to deal with two different definitions of night. For just logging their flight time, night officially starts at the end of evening civil twilight. That's that little window where the sun's just dipped below the horizon. But, and this is a big but, if you want to carry passengers, the rule says you need to have done recent takeoffs and landings starting 1 full hour after sunset. It's a subtle but crucial difference that makes sure you're truly practiced in the pitch black before you take people up with you. Okay, so with the legal stuff sorted, let's get into the really cool part, the biology. If you're going to fly safely at night, you first have to understand the hardware you're working with, your own eyes. And more importantly, you have to learn how to hack their built-in limitations. The absolute best way to wrap your head around this is an analogy the FAA loves to use. Just think of your eye as a super advanced biological camera. Light comes in, it gets focused, and an image gets captured. Simple as that. Once you understand the parts, you'll understand night vision. And here's the breakdown. The iris, that's your camera's diaphragm, opening and closing to control how much light gets in. The lens, well, that's just like a camera lens, focusing the light. And the retina, at the very back of your eye, that's your camera film. It's the light-sensitive surface where the picture actually gets recorded by some very special cells. Now this right here, this is the whole ball game for night flight. Your retina has two kinds of cells, cones and rods. Cones are your daylight crew. They see sharp details, they see in brilliant color, but they need a ton of light to work. Rods, on the other hand, are your night vision specialists. They are incredibly sensitive to even the tiniest bit of light, but they only see in shades of gray, and they're terrible with fine details. So here's the crazy part. The very center of your retina, the fovea, the part you use to look directly at something, it's packed with only cones. This means in the dark, you have a blind spot right in the middle of your vision. You literally cannot see an object at night by staring straight at it. So, what's the hack for this built-in blind spot? Well, it leads to this fundamental technique called off-center scanning. To see another plane or a light on the ground in the dark, a pilot has to look slightly away from it. By doing that, they shift the image onto the outer parts of their retina, where all those super sensitive rods are just waiting to pick it up. It's totally counterintuitive, but it works. But here's the thing. Getting those rods to work at their best isn't like flipping a switch. It can take a full 30 minutes in total darkness for your eyes to fully adapt and reach peak night vision. Just think about that walk from a bright airport terminal out to a dark airplane. For that whole time, your eyes are just starting the process. This is why preparation is so important, often just sitting in a dark cockpit before you even turn the engine on. Okay, so your eyes are fully adapted, you're up in the air, but now a new and honestly a more dangerous challenge begins. In the dark, your brain can be tricked. Your eyes can flat out lie to you in some pretty terrifying ways. I want you to imagine you're flying on a really clear dark night. Below you, there's a scattered pattern of town lights. Above you, the sky is full of stars. After a while, how do you really know which way is up? What happens when the ground and the sky start to blend together? This can lead to a really dangerous illusion called the false horizon. A pilot might accidentally start lining the plane up with a string of city lights, or maybe a long sloping cloud bank, thinking that's the horizon. And the result can be this slow, creeping bank that you don't even notice until you're completely disoriented. Here's another one, and I'm guessing you've experienced this yourself. You're just looking up at the sky, you fix your gaze on one tiny bright star, and after a few seconds, it looks like it starts to move, right? It starts to drift around. Well, that illusion has a name. It's called autokinesis. And in a cockpit, it can be deadly. A pilot might fixate on a single light on the ground, and their brain tricks them into thinking it's moving. The real danger is that they might try to follow that phantom movement, banking the aircraft without even realizing it. All right, now we get to the most critical part of any flight, and it's uniquely difficult in the dark, landing the plane. This is where everything comes together. your night vision skills, your defense against illusions, as you approach what can feel like a totally black void. So picture this. You're on final approach, but you're flying over a huge, dark patch of unlit terrain. Maybe it's water or a forest. There are no houses, no roads, no lights, nothing but the glowing rectangle of the runway ahead of you. How in the world do you judge your height and your angle? This scenario is so famous it has a name, the black hole approach. With absolutely no peripheral cues to help you, the runway lights just look like they're floating in space. And this tricks your brain. It very often makes pilots feel like they're higher than they actually are, causing them to fly a dangerously low approach and risking landing short of the runway. So how do pilots fight back against this? They have a mantra: don't trust your eyes, trust your instruments. They use visual approach systems on the ground, those colored lights next to the runway called a VASI or PAPI that tell you if you're too high or too low. They are constantly checking their altimeter. They trust their training, not their instincts. And when you boil it all down, that's what flying at night is all about. It isn't about being a daredevil. It's about careful, meticulous preparation, having the right gear, and knowing your procedures so well they're second nature, especially for when things go wrong. The gear you need isn't fancy, but it is absolutely non-negotiable. A good flashlight is your best friend. Ideally, one that has a red light so you can read charts in the cockpit without ruining your night vision. Spare batteries, of course. And up-to-date charts so you know exactly what you're looking at down below. And what about the worst-case scenario, say an engine failure? There is a calm, clear procedure. Step 1 is always the same: fly the airplane, maintain control. Then you work the problem. You try to figure out what went wrong, you declare an emergency, and you start planning where you're going to land. Only at the last possible moment do you turn on the landing lights to hopefully see what you're about to touch down on. It's procedure and training that replace panic. So, we end on this question. After looking at the biology, the illusions, and the procedures, you start to realize something. The biggest danger of flying at night isn't the darkness itself, it's what your own mind does with it. The real challenge is mastering your own perception and knowing when to trust your training over your own two eyes.